Well, hi, ladies. Welcome to June. Can you believe it's already June, halfway through the year? I don't know about you, but for me, it has just been flowing by. Anyway, our topic this month is anger is a choice. And I heard this story, although I can't confirm that it's true. And it's about a man and a wife. And one night, this guy said to his wife, "Hey, honey, why don't you wash your clothes in Slim Fast? Maybe it would take a few inches off your rear end." Oh my gosh, she was hurt, and of course she was mad. So she decided she was gonna take revenge. So the next morning he pulls out of his drawer a pair of underwear, and there's kind of this dust cloud that comes out of it, and he says, "Honey, why did you put baby powder in my underwear?" And she snickers and she says, "Honey, it's not baby powder, it's Miracle-Gro." Well, then he got really angry. And we don't know if he got revenge back on her, and they ended up playing kind of musical revenge. But anyway, the fact is, it is normal to feel justified to want to hurt the person who's hurt us, particularly if that person has stolen our dignity, our trust, maybe our innocence, maybe, just our life in general. Now, as women, we choose a lot of times to kind of hide our anger. Maybe we've been taught that women aren't supposed to be angry. A lot of times we don't want to bring on any unwanted rejection or disapproval, so we hide our anger. Or we just don't want to show that pain. Now, other women, and I know we all know them, create a whole higher level of chaos. Some even create violence. And what that tells me is they have been violated, they've been betrayed, and they are in a lot of pain, and that's how their anger is coming out. The thing we do know about anger, it is a classic coping mechanism, and it is a normal response to pain, to trauma, and to loss. It always feels safer to show anger rather than show our feelings of pain or confusion, of shame, of grief, even terror. Now, the thing about anger is it is a God-given emotion. It's a natural, it's an appropriate response to oppression, to wrongdoing, to abuse, to betrayal, broken trust, unfaithfulness, right? It's a natural, normal response when our needs aren't met, particularly when we're children. Maybe when our rights have been violated or we've been threatened. Anger is very healthy when it's expressed with the intention of telling other people about our personal values and our boundaries. So these would all be examples of righteous, or what I would call justifiable anger. So when we do get angry, we need to ask ourselves, is this righteous anger, or maybe is it just selfish anger? Now, we're going to come to know what those righteous things are as we study the Bible and get to know God better. Now, anger is also God's response too. There are a lot of things that make God angry. There are things he even hates, and you can read about those in Proverbs 6. He gets angry at injustice, and as Romans 1:18 says, he gets angry at evil men who push away the truth. Jesus, he became angry when people were victimized, when God's will was thwarted, and when God was misrepresented. So this is justifiable anger. But be aware, sometimes justifiable anger makes us feel we're entitled to that bitterness and to that resentment. And so we got kind of that big old chip on the shoulder, and it gets really hard to get rid of. Now, what frequently happens is our anger is really a symptom of buried grief. And that grief expresses itself as anger. And so what we need to do in those circumstances is reinterpret that anger as sadness, and then go through the grieving process and do that work. If we don't do the work, all unresolved anger is going to do is give the enemy an entry point into our lives, a place for him to unpack his bags and camp out. It allows the offender to control our life, to be part of our life, whether they live close to us or whether they're even dead. And the thing is, like, anger, it's like a cancer. It just contaminates our whole lives. It contaminates our bodies too, like a cancer. Ephesians 4:26-27. This is a scripture that you're probably very familiar with. Don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you're still angry, for anger gives the devil a foothold. And we know that bitterness and anger are destructive, and that is why it's a really popular poison that Satan chooses to use. That's why Paul said to forgive, to outsmart Satan. And if you allow that anger to dominate your thinking, what also happens is you lose that neurological ability to think logically, which obviously translates into our behaviors. You can't act compassionately. And it also increases the risk of cardiovascular disease, way up, and other health problems. So therefore, we've got to resolve any anger that's in our lives. So we ask God to help us answer, what is the pain behind my anger? Is it righteous or not righteous? Is it selfish? And how can I resolve my anger righteously? Now, many professionals, they say, blow off the steam. Go whack a punching bag, go yell at a doll in a chair, attack a pillow. But you know what they have found out repeatedly now? That this type of therapy, it doesn't work. It's kind of like it just feeds the flame. It just makes you more angry and more aggressive. So what is the solution? Scripture tells us, imagine that. This is Proverbs 29:11. Fools vent their anger, but the wise quietly hold it back. And then Colossians 3:8 says just get rid of it. Get rid of anger, rage, and malicious behavior. So a man named Dr. Norman Doidge, and he's a big expert on the brain, what he suggests is doing something satisfying and fulfilling when that anger feeling strikes. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Do something satisfying and fulfilling when you get angry. Because what happens is you start to create a new brain circuit, and it's going to take precedence over that old anger circuit. And so if you don't act on that anger circuit, it's going to weaken. But contrarily, if you lock into that anger, I'm going to go in and I'm going to whack out that punching bag, all you're doing is strengthening that anger circuit, and it's going to make it really hard over time to get rid of it and get out of it. You get locked into it, and all it does then is breed more toxic thinking and more toxins, come rushing through the body. So that's not such a great thing to do. Now, many professionals suggest writing an anger letter or an angry letter, which may or may not be sent. And that is something I recommended in the book I wrote, the one that you guys went through. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But since I wrote that book 10 years ago, I have really come to learn that so much of our anger is about unresolved grief. And so now what I suggest a lot is to write a grief letter. Because in a grief letter, we're not likely to express our feelings aggressively, thereby making us angrier and strengthening that anger circuit, right? When we're honest in our writing and we express these deep emotions, we can really close unresolved issues. Okay? So that's another suggestion. So I just want to wrap this up by saying, if you find out that your anger is too strong to control, if you scare people in your life with your anger, and if your anger causes you to be physical with the person that you're angry with or with anybody else who just happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, when you explode, please get professional faith-based help, okay? So anyway, enough said on anger. It's a topic we could talk about for days. Anyway, I hope you have an amazing time tonight. Of course, remember, I'm always praying for you and I'm thinking about you. Hey, and enjoy your beginning of the summer. I know you guys back east really deserve to have an uneventful, great summer. So I guess I will say adios, and I will see you in July.